I think. All right, so let's get started here. Alina is one of my favorite people. I first had a call with her with this very background in October. Told her that we were thinking about making a product for B2B. She told me that nobody would buy it, how I was describing it, and that I needed to get partnerships and get in other people's pixels to get on 10,000 websites as quickly as possible. Turns out that wasn't necessary, but I think there was still a lot to learn from her playbook that I haven't done yet, and we will do. But things that I love about Alina, she's like she is the opposite of everyone else that I know who is like her. She is a female CEO of a 30 million ARR bootstrap company that raised a ton of money at an almost $1 billion valuation. She is the technical co-founder. All of the, that's such an anomaly that it's crazy. And they bootstrapped for a really long time, and then they raised a bunch of money. And they're doing all sorts of wild stuff to grow. So I can't wait to have this conversation with Alina. We have 177 people live now, which is pretty cool. I think it'll probably get up in the 200s. And again, audience, I would love to ask you the 3 questions I asked 2 weeks ago, so that I just want to figure out if the audience composition is like the same as it was with Jason Bay, or if it's different or whatever. So throughout this show, we're going to drop 3 questions. We'll share the answers with everybody. So Alina told me to intro her as a person who is not maybe as good at posting on LinkedIn as me, but better at running businesses.
That's not how I framed it.
Well,
but it's a funny intro. Funny intro.
Well,
I take it.
cool. Well, Alina, how many years ago did you start Chili Piper?
9 years ago.
9 years ago. So how long were you bootstrapped for?
3 years.
3 years. What everybody wants to know when I'm writing about bootstrapping, they say bootstrapping sounds awesome based upon how you describe it, but literally, how do you get the original money to like build whatever you're building? How did you get?
We actually sold our house.
What?
But it's a little bit even more dramatic than that. So not only did we sell our house, but we hired what's called estate sale, where you sell everything, including your detergent and your socks and your towels, everything. And we just put everything in a business. And I moved into a little studio with 4 other people to get this going. I felt like it's burning the boats or nothing. I was at that time I was 31, and I felt if I'm not doing it now, I'm never going to do it. I didn't, and I wanted to give it my best shot. So we sold everything. Wow. And we moved into a tiny studio that was like the rent. I remember $1,400 in New York. That's kind of crazy. We didn't have a car. We sold that too. I was biking to work, and in a super shitty office that I was sharing with 1 million other people. And I didn't care about anything else than building this business. That was my only focus. I didn't have friends. I didn't have hobbies. That was it.
Yeah, as Zach said, she burned the boats. I mean,
I burned the boats, yeah.
I think that is incredible. I wish that mine happened slower. I just like didn't sell my house or anything because I was renting, but I burnt through every single penny that I had getting to cash flow positive. And I sort of think that startups will do that. They will consume whatever resources are around them until your back is against the wall and you have to make it work. And then you like kick into this like gear, at least this has been my observation, of like maximum efficiency, maximum ruthless, prioritization, and you just make it work, which is amazing.
I'm curious, Alina, how long was it before you got your first revenue from starting the company?
It was pretty fast. And the reason it was pretty fast is because I was adamant to build something that people would pay up front for. I felt that if I do that, then I know I have something. So
Right.
I actually invoiced somebody before I had any product.
Nice.
I love that. These are my favorite stories. These are my favorite stories. So what was the product that you invoiced them for?
That's super, nothing fascinating or exciting. It's not like I had this vision for a demand conversion platform and I was like this visionary founder. I was looking for problems that I could solve for, and I found somebody that had a problem and they were willing to pay $20,000 to solve for it, so I built it. There was something very specific in their case. They were booking a lot of SMBs for onboardings. It was a company selling to restaurants, and they were building a POS for them, and they would close them on the phone, but they needed to book their onboardings to get the device at the location, and it was quite complicated for them to route that appointment because it was based on location, based on the size, based on a million other criteria. So they wanted to have the person closing the deal book the onboarding right away. So they needed a round robin and a booking solution. So I built something super crude, and they paid for it ahead of time.
And was that what, I mean, I kind of know what we use Chili Pepper, but like, was that then
No,
did
that's
it
not
become
that.
Chili Pepper, or is it totally
No. That was a product that we called Handoff, and we still have it. It's a lot better than the crude version that we had at that time. It was a product that I decided to build because it was not only one person that told me that they had that problem. There were multiple people that confirmed that this was a problem for them. It was mostly not at the touch point between sales to onboarding. It was for other teams. It was mostly around SDR to AE handoff that there was a problem to be solved. But it was a product that was not taking off. I would get clients, I would close pretty good business out of it, but it was not like something
no
that you
organic
can...
word of mouth.
And there was some of it because there were some scheduling links, and that's how we became associated with scheduling. But it was not a huge ROI driver. There would be some optimization in onboarding time. There would be some optimization in time spent. There was some ROI there, but it wasn't like huge ROI that would get people to close the deal immediately, right? And it was a small ACV at that time. I think it was... So this company was paying 20K, but because of the seed model that I had, it was probably around 5K, if I remember correctly, or maybe, yeah, somewhere around that. It was when I started calling on people and realizing that all their traffic to their website, they have people wait like 24 hours and then they go and call them and they lose like 60% of their website traffic. People that could buy from them but don't because nobody answers the door. Then I realized, whoa, that absolutely makes no sense. I built something really fast for the form so that when somebody comes in and they're qualified, they can immediately talk to sales. And that the ROI was massive immediately.
Yeah.
We're going from 40% conversion rates to 60% conversion rates. And I don't know, Santosh, if it was the case in your org, but when we would get big organizations like DiscoverWork, which later bought ZoomInfo and then become ZoomInfo, for them, it was huge. It was like a few $1 million immediately that they got out of it. So then I knew that I had the better product. I thought it would fly off the shelves because people would pay us $30 per user and then they would get this $1 million in return. But it wasn't as fast as I wished it was. It took a long time to make it work.
So
how much time?
Yeah. Can you take us through the first 3 years of like what approximately was happening and how were you getting customers and how many of them did you get? Like, just kind of like walk us through the bootstrapping journey.
So we bootstrap all the way to 3 million.
Yeah.
3 million in ARR. I wasn't planning to take VC money because I didn't think it was possible because all the VCs would tell me that I'm a point solution. And because I was born in Romania and I'm pretty good with being scrappy and like fast and scrappy, and that's how I've always been. I wasn't very tempted by getting showered by VCs, but once we discovered this other product, Concierge, and I thought it was like about 1.5 years in, maybe like 2 years in, something like that. We didn't get the traction that I was seeing ahead of me. and then like the hockey stick growth that I was expecting to see, because even though it made sense theoretically that our solution would work, I had a problem because the website was under the preview of marketing, but my users were the salespeople that would receive meetings, so they had to agree to buy. And
I'm familiar with this problem.
the education of both team and having like both teams to collaborate and bring something new on board was took a lot more education than I expected.
And was
Right.
the solution just education?
Yes.
And
Yes.
what specifically does that mean? Like what, like when you're a 2.5 million ARR startup and you're like, I need to educate these people, like, what are you doing?
So that was tricky. We tried a million things, like we tried like everybody else, cadences and partnerships, and we did all of that, and they all contributed to education. But the most important for us, it has been to have people that are very visible talk about it and talk about the results that they get, because I can talk as much as I'm blue in the face, but I'm not credible because I'm the vendor. Whereas people that have my customers that are achieving the results, they are a lot more believable. And I was silly at the beginning and I wasn't using like social properly. I was doing these case studies on my website that nobody reads. But it was getting advocacy from people that were getting results. And you have to do it again and again and again. People go in different circles and everybody looks up to somebody else, and you have to get people that matter to talk about you.
We'll talk about that a little later too. Santosh, any questions about the bootstrapping phase of Chili Piper?
Yeah, I'm curious. So you mentioned you got your first 20K in revenue through that the initial solution. How did you get to 1 million or the next 2 million before you hit 3 million and look like by that time you figured out what the big picture was? Can you share the hiring you did and the decisions you took to get to the first million?
We didn't hire any salespeople until my co-founder. So the way we were splitting our responsibilities at the beginning between myself and my co-founder, I was the CEO and he was the president. I was in charge of product, onboarding, design, engineering, basically everything except sales. And Nicola was my machine when it came to sales. He was like literally a machine. And once he got to 100K to close by himself, that's when I knew that I can start hiring people. And that was probably like 2 years into it that we got to the right level to start hiring SDRs. And it took a long time to make that motion work. And the way he got to 100K by himself is the key to the entire webinar. And the way Adam kind of prepped the post yesterday on what we did then that we continue to do today. That's
nice.
That's something that we're going to talk about next.
The third secret. Okay, we want to run the first poll because I just want to make sure, and we'll share the results. It's a poll about the role of your startup. We ran it with Jason Bay. I think he brought a bunch of salespeople, but John, can you hammer can you drop the poll? It's basically like, what is your role, your org? I don't know. I don't see it. Maybe it's happening. We will keep move. Okay, there it is. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'll let this go for a couple minutes and then come back and share the results. We will move into phase 2 of Chili Piper, the VC phase.
Mm-hmm.
So I was listening, but I didn't hear a why. Why did you do that?
So my definition of success when I started, actually, I can go a little bit maybe back in time. I didn't fully know what SaaS entrepreneurship was when I got into it. I was seeing my co-founder starting various companies. Some of them did well, some of them less well. And I didn't know precisely what success looks like, because when you look at it from afar, some people talk about it in terms like how big is your org, like you scaled all the way to 2,000 people. Some of them talk about exits, and we had this guy in our space that at that time sold his company for $100 million. He was a majority owner, and I felt that was like the most amazing thing that I've ever seen. And I thought, if I'm going to get to sell my company for $100 million, that's what success looks like. So I had some ideas of what success like, but I was influenced by things that are portrayed in media, things that are portrayed by other founders, and everybody has like a different target and like a different lived experience. So all these things that you see in TechCrunch, all these exits, the 500 million exit, and all these ARR numbers make you believe that's what you should aim for. So I thought that if I raise money from VC, then I can get to these numbers. And that's like my way. That's how I was thinking at that time. That's how you get to those numbers. So the fact that I was seeing other people raise and I wasn't, I really felt like I was failing. Like nobody gives me money, so I must be a failure. But I figured I'll just do it my way. I'll just continue, and maybe it's possible, maybe it's not possible. I don't know. So when a VC came in at that time, actually there were a couple of them that came in, and they were starting to see traction because they monitor websites and they see that we would get more people coming to our website than what was maybe normal. They started looking into our numbers, and they start seeing potential in the business because they would see that we have a really good NRR. They started to see that we have really good logos, because at that time we were like bootstrapping. We had like Facebook and what did we have? Square. We had like really big accounts that had more people on the call than we were in our company to buy from us. So then they knew that there was something, and they got a really good deal at that time. They gave us money that we thought that they could help us lift up that education ramp up. They got a really big deal, and they did well. They had the secondary with a beautiful exit, those early VCs for me, and they've been very helpful too. Yeah.
Man, it must be nice to have net revenue expansion. Someday I'll create a product that does. So is there, I mean, I think I just love talking about like timelines. Like, is there, I don't know, I think it's on TechCrunch, like the dates and the amounts that you raised and then like what you did with it. Like, I would love to know. Right? Like, you know,
the biggest amount, the first one was a 3 million raise, but the 2020, the Series A, that was a seed. The 2020 Series A was 15 million, which is like a much more substantial amount. And came from 2 established VCs. So the first seed came from a VC from Europe, and they helped us a lot, and especially
in what way?
In the early days, one of the things that I felt like I was missing, especially myself, I don't want to talk about my co-founder, but especially for myself, I felt like I was missing some benchmarks, understanding, am I doing well, am I not doing well? Like, is my NRR really working well? Should I segment the numbers like that? Should I think about my GTM a bit differently? Are companies doing it slight different approach? And all of a sudden it opened up doors that I didn't have before, not only for benchmarks, but also to talking to other founders and understanding what they're doing differently. I wasn't looking at that. I was like only obsessed with like serving the customer. And that the ability to see more points of view helped me to expand my horizon of options.
Yeah.
Helped me expand my horizon. Plus the guy was super good at helping us believe in ourselves, because sometimes we were lacking the self-belief that we can do it as well. It's not the same with every founder, but in my case, I had some doubts about myself, and him bringing on like, Alina, you can do it. This is what I see that you have in you, and that helped me a lot.
And the team size went from what to what?
I remember that when he came in Paris, we were about maybe like 11 or 12 or something like that. And then immediately we were 30, something like that, if I remember correctly.
Then was there a major change with the bigger raises?
So it came with pluses and cons. On on the plus side, it opened up for sure doors. And in the second tranche, when we did the 15 million, it brought in people that have gone even further than what we were thinking that we can get to. And having people on our side made us feel like we were, we had a lot more strength, because we were, at that time, there was Sales Loft and Outreach that were doing really well. And we were looking at all their raises and how much capacity they had, just because they were educating with more SDRs and more AEs and with paid ads, and we were doing none of that. It gave me confidence that I can grow faster, and I could see the results. And so it really aided in many ways. On the flip side of that, on the negative front, you get this courage to make bigger bets, and you get the courage to maybe spend more on paid and so forth. But you start losing the perspective of every dollar has to count, and you might make some bets that might not pay off. And you start becoming more comfortable with that risk, which is okay, because you learn a lot. But at the same time, sometimes you spend money on things that maybe you shouldn't have.
Yep.
Especially big chunks.
Santosh, you got anything?
No, this is so one question I have, when you started the company, there were literally no competitor, right? You enjoyed several years of like being a dominant vendor.
Enjoy, yeah.
Yeah. And then there has been more recently, last several years, several competitor, and yet Chili Piper is a dominant vendor. I'm curious, at what point did you begin to notice competition, and how did your strategies change? Clearly what you did worked, because you are you're still a very well-known brand. I don't see anyone else kind of
claiming that
having broken the mold. Yeah.
So I tell you, being the only one in the space sucks. I wish I had competitors. And the reason for that is, there are a couple of reasons. First of all, you spend a lot of time educating by yourself. You don't have like 3 other people that can educate on the problem and on the solution. And yes, it can be done. And people, that awareness takes a lot of time. And if you're the only one doing it, sales cycle drag on. So my sales cycle was much longer. Then you have to spend a lot more resources on the education, and then that's not good. The other downside of you being the only one is that you become complacent with your product. And our product kind of sucked for a long time. It was like the rough version that I built by myself. I still see some UIs in our older version, and like I cringe when I look at it. So it's not a good idea. Once we started getting some companies copying us with better UI, we started saying, oh, maybe we should invest more on that. Our pipeline starting opening up a lot more. I think it was 2021, 2022 that we started getting some competitors, especially out of India, some copycats. And it was cute. I felt super cute to watch them. Like, oh, we're better than Chili Piper because we do this and that. I was like, wow, that I like that game. I'm competitive. It's fun. So I would sometimes send kudos. That was a good campaign. I like that. I think you did well on that. So I started welcoming it, and I think it's a good. It makes us better. It makes the customer happier. I was delighted to see that I'm getting some help on education.
Amazing. Can you take us through like the sort of emotional roller coaster of the last raise, and then like the kind of crash of SaaS, and sort of how you readjusted yourself and where you're at now? I
was saying this last week. Us founders, we kind of have like 2 modes. We're either in terror or we're in euphoria.
I can relate to that. I can relate to that. Trying to spend my time in euphoria, but it's like hard sometimes.
And it gets amplified with lack of sleep. The optimization for euphoria is something that I resonate a lot with. And what happened is that once we managed to do some secondaries, and thank God for secondaries, I started getting a lot more relaxed. Because even though it's not like something that I would explicitly say, in the back of my head, I was always worried about running out of money, like the financial, typical financial problems that I had as a child, and maybe that comes from my childhood trauma. I was worried that I might not be able to pay my bills, and especially since I gave birth to two little ones, that I would not be able to put food in my fridge or pay for my rent. I had these things in the back of my mind, and I would keep checking our Chase account. And once that was settled, all of a sudden I felt like my body would finally be in a state of calm, and I would make better decisions. And all of a sudden I started becoming a lot more focused on enjoying the process. And now I cannot imagine me ever retiring. I think I'm going to work like on SaaS all the way until I'm 100, and I'm like shaking, and I'm going to talk about AI bots, or God knows what we're going to talk about at that time. Because I really focus on working on things that bring me joy. If there's something that I really don't like doing, then for sure there will be someone in my team that can pick up on that. So there's some fluidity in that. And I've been enjoying it a lot more.
Santosh, did you get the message I sent you? I'm trying to feed questions to Santosh.
Oh. Yeah, so would you, do you have any regrets, and would you do something different if you were doing this journey again?
Who I was talking about this, maybe a board member. I don't like to dwell on that. I don't like to dwell on regrets. I do not like to dwell on backup plans, on if things go wrong, what would I do? I don't like to go back in time and like think and start filling my brain with negative thoughts, because I feel that is like a virus. Like you start thinking about things that are negative or things that you should dwell on, and then you start feeling bad about yourself, and then you become miserable to be around. But there's still a lot of lessons that you can look at in the past and apply in the future. I think that probably my biggest opportunity that I missed, but I understand why I missed, is being a lot more public myself. I only started being public about a year ago.
Nice.
Nice.
Being public,
Yeah.
we have found that being public is incredibly powerful.
That's what I've noticed. Yeah, I think I would have done a lot of things differently, better, if I would have had the courage to speak up. Yeah.
Can I ask a related question in a slightly different way? Do you believe that you could have bootstrapped to where you were, or was the capital like transformational to like getting to the same revenue levels?
If I would have been a different person to start with, if I would have maybe had a different lived experience, maybe if I would have been born in America and had more confidence in myself and been exposed to more founders, if I would not have the fear of like putting myself out there and speaking up, probably, but yeah. I'm given it what I'm given. So the material that I've been made of is a little bit different.
Well, I mean, I have to say that I think you've done a pretty good job given the hand that you've been given. So I want to ask this question because this is related to these two sections before we move into the exciting part that everyone wants to know, which is, what are you doing today that you do if you were 1 million ARR? The question is from Vinay. Alina, what would you do differently in tech and tech sales if you had started Chili Piper today from scratch?
Definitely, I would definitely be a lot more courageous in being public and not try to hide like I used to.
Hey, that's kind of what I recommend to everybody too. And the thing that I think is interesting about building in public is like, especially if it's your first startup, it may not be that interesting to anyone today, but the longer the time that goes by and the more successful you become, that body of, not only is like, does it mean more if you're at 20 million ARR than if you're at 1, the body of work of like actually reporting on everything you've done along that way becomes incredibly valuable. And like, it will create this binge bin for people where they'll go down the rabbit hole and they'll read every word you've ever written. And then you've got a true believer. You know what I mean? You've got this like incredible following. And I think like related, it's like, we're in this attention war. And the way I think about it, it's like any reason that you can give someone to pay attention to you, you should. you know, and that's just like a different, like there's this guy in the Shopify ecosystem, Nick Shackelford, who was like running an ads agency and like he owns some brands and stuff. And he launched this brand called Brex. And it's like a, you know, a mushroom based drink. And like kind of one of the things about it is he's like got a big social audience and he's like doing this work in public thing, which is crazy. Not the only reason people are buying it, but like that's how he got original attention. He's absolutely crushing it. So those are my thoughts about that. Santosh, you got anything else on this topic?
I don't know if this is out of topic, but I'm curious. I think there was a question. How do you manage your work-life balance, especially early stages, when you were bootstrapping? And I'm guessing as you say that again.
She doesn't even understand the question.
No.
What balance?
Yeah.
Love it.
I'm going to take that balance question, but first I just want to make sure that I explain why in my case it would have made a big difference if I was public from the beginning, because it's very much specific to me. When I started, I was the technical co-founder and I was really good at visual communication. Like I could understand how to present something visually for someone to buy my tool. So I would have like these doodles and this visual representation of a product and let me show you how it works. It was all about showing things visually. And I had a very good mathematical mindset because as a technical co-founder, that's like how my brain worked. But I had I was lacking on communication. And words seem like not that important when you start things. However, it's what motivates your employees. It's what gets prospects to pay attention. And the way you communicate things in order to move people to action is highly important. That's how politicians work. And repetition and certain things that are highly tied to how you communicate are highly important. And I didn't have that skill set. And if I started practicing earlier, it would have made a huge difference. It's just like it wasn't the muscle that I ever worked on. Talking about balance, I have a very strange, I don't think like I'm behaving like most people in that I get hyper fixated on things and I always get fixated on like different topics. And to me, that's so much fun. Like right now I'm learning to be a better communicator, and that to me is like a journey that's worth going through because you can do so much if you're a better communicator. Or I might get obsessed with building delightful UX, or I might get obsessed with creating cross-sell motions for like multiple SKUs. I get like obsessed with things and I think they're so much fun that I can't imagine anything else more fun. I can't imagine sitting on the beach. I can't imagine playing tennis. It's just not fun to me. So it's like, well, it's already balanced because I'm having the best job that I could possibly have. But I do love my children and I spend time with them too.
They're worthy obsession. So okay, we're gonna ask the second question. It's give me an ARR range so that we know who we're talking to. We'll let that run for 2 minutes and then I will share that with everybody so you know who the other 218 people are on this call. Really, 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 really appreciate that. It helps us decide who we bring on and what we talk about. It's very helpful. So now we're gonna get to the section which was the teaser of the LinkedIn post that I put out yesterday. The question of the hour: what is Chili Piper doing right now that if you were at 1 million ARR, you would also be doing to get customers? And detail, because I asked you this and you gave me some really interesting points about exactly how you would do it. So boom, mic to you, Alina.
So when we started, we didn't have any following on social. We didn't have any SDRs. We were not sending any emails. And our only resources were engineers. That's all we had in our company, plus myself and my co-founder. And I told you that my co-founder was a sales machine. And I would go with him and watch him. And I started learning and I started doing replicating the same. He would, at that time, it was Eventbrite, I think. Maybe, yeah, I think it's Eventbrite. He would scan all the sales events that were happening in our neighborhood or in LA, because we were between LA and Brooklyn. And he would attend every single event. There was no event where Nicola was not present. And he would read the room. He would see who in that room was the most influential, in that people would go to that person a lot more than others in the room. And then he would go straight to that person and pitch him. It was not a straight pitch, because he's great at bringing the product without making it feel like it's a pitch. But that's how he started, and that's how we got our first customers. And our first customers were always influencers, and there were always people that would talk about us to their network. And he would book sometimes 10 meetings at happy hour, you know. He would really be focused on creating pipeline at these events. And now you see that most events I'm there. There's no event where you don't see me.
So how specifically can you tell if someone is influential?
In a room.
Yeah.
So right now we have the luxury of seeing who the attendees are. So you can start looking ahead of time, and you can see who might have like some LinkedIn followers, like X followers, etc. That's one way to do it. The way we did it at that time, and I still do it, is I spend a few minutes like just watching the room and see the person that is surrounded by most people at all times. And as they move, they're still surrounded by more people. And as they move, they're still surrounded by more people. Everybody wants to talk to them. Then you know that you have a hyper connector.
And then how do you break the ice with them?
That's a bit tricky. What happens is that if they see you at enough events, they start memorizing that there's a face, because they're hyper connectors for a reason. So they start recognizing your face. So the more events you attend, the more likelihood is that you get recognized. So it's the easier it is to break the ice. In the first instances, the way I did it, as I would go with a pen and I would just doodle what I wanted to build, and I would ask them if it's a good idea, because I figured that they know better my ICP. And I would say, would people buy this thing that I'm drawing? Would you think that they're interested? And they would give me some tips. Well, change this thing and this thing. So eventually they became what now is called design partner. But they became a lot more invested in my success because they were part of my process. And that was like the initial pitch, and that's how it all came about. Now I still do that. I still go to people and I ask them, hey, did you see my launch? What do you think about that? Which feature did you like? Oh, you're with my competitor. Why do you like my competitor? Why didn't you like us? Why didn't you buy us? And I ask a million questions to try to understand what we can do better. I'm maniacal about the details.
That's amazing. And you think that works regardless of what stage you're at? I mean, you were doing this to people before you even had a product.
Yeah, it works. Now I have 5 SKUs. And there's always something that I learn, some other competitor that's doing something cool that I should be looking into. And what I'm finding is that I can get on as many Zooms as possible. I can be in as many Slacks as possible in communities to ask that question. People do not tell me the truth virtually, but when we're in person, they do. And it's as if, because there's no camera on them, there's no like written recording or anything. They tell me the truth, why they don't like that competitor, why they chose me, or what particular feature. They tell me the truth. So to me, it's a lot more valuable to get the truth than somebody trying to sugarcoat something. And that's how we can get our products to be better.
Going back to old school techniques.
It's interesting. It's so interesting that people don't tell the truth on Zoom. I have no idea what it is, but maybe it's like the cameras on us. We're a lot more like cognizant of, I don't know.
Santosh, do you have any questions about the old school method of finding the influencer and getting them to use the product somehow?
Well, interestingly, Alina, you said you have been public for a year. I feel like you have been public for a long time, or at least you seem so comfortable being public. It seems like you've been doing it for a long time. Do you think a lot of the success that you have seen is also because of who you are, or you think anybody can sort of build these skills?
I bet that if you'd have met me 3 years ago, you'd have thought it's impossible for me to go public. I literally don't doubt that, because I would be afraid of eye contact. And I came with my pencil and my paper, but I would had the body language of a developer who's like afraid to touch people because they might break. And I felt a lot more comfortable with my computer than with anybody else. I actually thought at some point that I might just become a monk because I feel a lot more comfortable alone. So no, you'd have not thought that I could do this. You'd have not guessed it. It took a lot of work for me to become
Nice.
extroverted in this way. It took a lot of work.
When we were at dinner last week, you mentioned a book, and I think you said that it helped you a lot with this very thing. Like literally,
yeah, it got me out. It got me out of it. Yeah.
What book was it?
It's a book that might not have the title Turning an Introvert into an Extrovert. It actually has a very weird title. It's called Nonviolent Communication by a guy called Marshall Rosenberg that died. It's a very popular book on Amazon. And when I read it, I understood some of the principles there. I understood some of the reasons why people behave the way they behave. I understood the reason why people argue with one another the way they argue. I understood why I had these fears inside of me, like why was this internal voice that was saying, no, you prefer to be a monk. So I had the theoretical understanding, but it was as if I was reading about how to ride a bicycle. I was just getting the theoretical understanding of it. And then I got in touch with the woman that runs the foundation for the guy that wrote the book. And she started doing a lot of training for my organization. She helped me a lot with a lot of coaching. And then I went to an 11-day retreat with her and 100 other people. And all of a sudden it clicked with me. I started understanding how people make decisions. I started understanding how people behave in public settings. I started understanding why I was having all this internal dialogue that made absolutely no sense. I started understanding why I had all this conditioning, all these fears around approaching people and how I would be judged and how I would be labeled and what would happen if I say something stupid and all these like little things that come in our head when we think about somebody public. I would be terrified to speak in public. I would be terrified. And now if you see me, you think that, well, she was just like always comfortable to being on the stage. No, I thought that I would rather die. It was not at all comfortable for me. And after that experience, 11 days, I came out a person that loves meeting people, loves learning from people, is excited to get on stage and talk about the subject I'm passionate about. It's a bizarre transformation, but it happened to me and I'm living proof of it.
It's incredible. And like, I think that I can't imagine anything that has helped you more than that. You know, like in a world where people just want to connect with people are doing business with people, social media is set up to where people connect with people. Yeah, I'm gonna get the book. I'm gonna read it. You really make me
super curious. I'd be super curious what you think of it.
Yeah, you really make me want to go to this training. I don't know when I'm gonna get 10 days off since I'm taking.
And you're gonna turn into an introvert?
I'm taking 2 days off. What if it does the opposite for me?
You become a monk.
I'm really intrigued, but I actually like my wife would say this about me. I'm like very extroverted in a group of people that I know, but if I don't know anyone, I'm like super introverted. So this strange thing happened where I became kind of like famous in the B2B SaaS world. So now it feels like I know everybody. So
or
I'm
they
like
feel that they know you.
Yeah, so like I'm very extroverted at these events, but like, I mean, if I did not have that thing, I would be talking to no one. I literally like would be absolutely terrified at the notion that I thought that my job was to walk around and find the most influential people and get them to listen to me about my thing. Like nothing sounds more horrible than that to me. Like I used to hate going to events. Early Get Emails days, Diane and I would go, and our whole plan would be like to try to sit at different lunch tables and like let them know what Get Emails was before anyone knew what it was, right? Like, and it would like I would look at the room and I'd be like, I need, these are 1,000 people that I need to talk to. I'm not going to be able to talk. It just gives me this crippling anxiety. Anyway, I'm gonna get the book.
And when you have the anxiety, people read it and there's a lot of awkwardness around it and it just doesn't work.
Right.
No, totally. Okay, let's drop the last poll question, John. Nonviolent Communication was the book. If you scroll up a little bit in the chat, I dropped a link in there. It's super long. I don't know why. Okay, last question that really helps us determine the content. And by the way, the summary of the feedback from this question that we asked 2 weeks ago, it was a lot of pipeline related stuff. Just for what it's worth. I'm sure no one's surprised, but I am trying to blank. I'll leave it up for, 5 minutes or whatever. If you guys can answer this, it really helps determine what the run of show is for the upcoming shows. One person answered. Thank you very much. It takes a while to type. So let's open the floor to questions. Santosh, we got a few in the Q&A. We got, I think, some in the webinar chat.
So let me
start firing questions for Alina if you have them. And then, audience, we really appreciate any responses to this poll that you have. Go for it.
So while we're waiting for some questions to come up, Alina, can you share what's in the product roadmap or vision? What do we expect from Chili Piper in the next few years?
When we started the company, we actually named the company Hot Pipeline. Chili comes from hot, Piper comes from pipeline.
Right.
And I'm truly obsessed with all the things that can get people to bring more pipeline into their funnel by automating all the things that are boring and unnecessary and letting people do what they're best at doing, which is connecting with others. And so we have prioritized a lot of, internally we've prioritized a lot of optimization in our funnel with AI. And we hope that everything that we learn ourselves internally, we put it back into the product in order for people to use as fewer resources as possible to get to pipeline growth. The pipeline machine. I see a few questions here. I feel like I see 4 questions. Do you see them, Santosh?
Go for it. Go for it. Yes.
Yeah, go pick one that you like. If
I'll take them in order. I'll take them in order. What do you think about the growth of the team? What area of the business are you expanding in? How are you thinking about talent growth and retention, team culture? There's a lot of question in that one question. Team culture for me is paramount. I cannot be effective as a one person, as a CEO. I can only be effective if my team is effective. And in order to do that, and that was my session at SaaS Open last week as well. There's a lot of decentralized decision-making. I don't make decisions. I'm part of decisions, but I don't make decisions. Everybody makes decisions together. People are happy when they have autonomy to do their best work. And in order to have autonomy as a founder who is obsessed by details like I am, we create game plans together. So we have these decision memos where we make decisions together, and I'm a participant in the decisions. And we also have game plans where I'm a participant on the game plans to make sure that we're all driving towards the same metrics, to the activities that matter to move the needle. So we're co-creating the game plans. And in addition, our roles are quite fluid, as I was telling you earlier. We might swap certain things in our job aspects so that we don't necessarily get bogged down by the title that we have. And then there's another piece of it, which is people leave managers, they don't leave companies. So as a result, I'm quite focused on self-management, like how people can drive their own activities and game plans without having to report to someone that they might not like, even myself. So those are the type of things that I'm working on in terms of affecting the systems in our company and team culture. I hope that's the answer that Joe wanted. If not, I can dig deeper. How did you, as a product person, manage the engineering team and ensure that they were effective? I'm actually an engineer, so I did a master in computer science, and managing engineers for me is super easy. I have a lot easier time managing engineers than anything else, because engineers, they just love building cool shit. And I love building cool shit, and building with them was so much fun. What does Alina think about the no-code automation and world blowing up? Isn't it a threat to SaaS? I say this all the time, and I say it again. Products are super easy to copy. Super easy to copy. That you think that you have an idea and you can build a product. That's a tiny piece of building a business. I don't think that it matters that much. I think that what really matters is creating all the things that are around the product. If you could start all over again, what is one thing you do differently when it comes to customer outreach? The same answer that I gave to Adam. I think I would be a lot more public so that people feel comfortable to coming to me with problems and understanding them better. I would do a lot more of that. Alina, I didn't exactly... Go ahead. Santosh, you want to say something?
There are some more questions on the on the chat window.
Do I talk too fast?
Oh, go ahead. Pick one.
No, I like this next one that you're about to answer.
I didn't understand how you got to 1 million in ARR. You touched on having influencers try and share. Was that the main strategy to get to 1 million? How about things like pricing and pipeline? So initially, I would get these pieces of paper. I would ask people if they would buy it, if I would build it. I would send them a Panda doc, and I would say, I would build it if you pay 1 year in advance. That's how we got our initial customers. Our initial customers were people that were known in the space that you might recognize. We had Square, we had Greenhouse, we had, was it PandaDoc, one of our first? I don't remember. There was this guy, Kevin Dorsey, that you all might follow on LinkedIn. That was one of my first customers. And things started to infiltrate in the network. They were using it, they were getting results, they were talking about it. And that's how we started getting inbound. It's just happened naturally because we started targeting the nodes in our system. And we were charging 1 year in advance. My pricing is, I'm still not happy with it. Entrepreneurs are never happy with the things that they do. I think our pricing is too low, and I think that's problematic for me. Yeah, I'm not an expert on pricing, but I'm an expert at feeling the pain of it.
Me too. What about the channel partnership question? Did Chili Piper accelerate growth through channel partnerships?
We had partnerships from the beginning, in that we had a partnership mindset anyway. We started hiring people down the line to help us with that. But one of the first thing that I did, I approached the big the people that were doing well in our space and co-creating content with them or doing integrations with them. Channels came, I think, in 2022, if I'm not 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, something like that. We started hiring someone on channel, and that's producing about 20% of our pipeline and influencing a lot more.
Sweet. Let's do one more, pick a random one, and then we'll let everybody know where they can find you and tease.
What is the best way to approach customers to get feedback data so that you can share these stories with prospects? I write, I'm the co-founder at Chili Piper, and I would really, really, really be interested to hear your feedback. It would mean a lot for me if I understand what you hate about us, and that's like an important question. And then I don't do much video case studies like on video or on social. I'm observing that people feel a lot more comfortable to talk about it when what's called the dark social. If they're happy with your product, they're going to talk positively about it. If they're not happy with your product, they're not going to talk positively about it. So I lurk in a lot of communities and see what people say about us naturally. I know if there's a problem, I need to fix it immediately. I can't, I don't let things stay for a long time.
Are you, when you're writing that email, are you soliciting an email response or like a customer conversation?
I really just separate that. I would really, really, for instance, if somebody churns, it would mean really a lot to me if I understand why you went with this other solution. And usually they write back. They write back.
They just tell you an email.
Yeah. Right now I do a lot of LinkedIn. Is that
after they churn or like before?
No, right now I do it, I guess, in both ways. If I have a good relationship with someone, I ask them before. If I don't have a relationship with someone afterwards, I also do it in communities, in Slack communities. I reach out and I say, hey, I saw that you churn. I would like to know. I also do it in LinkedIn. Sometimes I do it in some of my WhatsApp communities. Yeah, it depends.
I think I just need to use more. I need to start doing that because like this churn thing is really hard. And I think saying really 3 times is the secret. Really. What an awesome chat, Alina. You're so great. So let everybody know where they can find you, how they can follow you, whatever.
I'm at every B2B event that you go to. You might see me in one way or another. But I'm also on LinkedIn. For now, that's the only channel that I know to be effective. I don't spend much time there, but I enjoy connecting and learning from people. I wish I could know to make other channels work, but I don't have the mind space for it yet.
Yeah, me neither. We'll see. Alina for president. Exactly
Great.
right. So next week we have Anthony Kanata on, who wrote a great book called Category Creation. We're going to
Oh, I
talk to
love
him.
Anthony. I
Yeah,
love
he's
Anthony.
so good. We're going to talk to him about that book. He started a company called Audience Plus because he's got this view of the future of marketing. And it's aligned with everything that Alina was kind of saying that she has done and would have done earlier on in her career, had she known. It is about creating a public figure out of yourself. That's what he thinks the future is. Come next week to check Anthony Kanata out. Alina, this was so great. I wonder if people with influence after this webinar are going to get attacked at events.
No,
You're gonna see the next B2B event like 30 people with like pads and drawings or whatever. Oh yeah, and for recordings, this is the recording will be on that playlist tomorrow at 9 a.m. Thank you everybody. This has been so great. Another inbound led outbound workshop. Alina, you're very inspirational.
Thanks,
you so
Alina.
much.
Thanks, everyone. Such a great chat.
Likewise. Thank you for having me.
Bye, everybody.
Bye now.